Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Crypt of Shadows number 7, a Marvel comic published in 1973 that primarily reprints Atlas Comics, Marvel's predecessor, from the early 50s, all pre-code, pre-comics code. And we start off with this really cool looking cover, really creepy. On the Grand Comic database, it says it's possibly either Mike Plug or Marie Severin on pencils. I'm pretty damn sure it's Mike Plug. I'm not the best guy at identifying artists, you know. I'm not like an expert. But when I first saw this, I thought, hey, that looks like Mike Plug. And Herb Trimpe does the inks, which is kind of evident if you look closely at it. It's very Herb Trimpe on the inks. Nice cover. So we start off with The Haunting of Bluebeard, writer unknown, art by Tony DiPreta, who did a lot of comics for Atlas. So we see this old haunted house. And inside this haunted house, though, there's a man actually lives there, and he calls himself Bluebeard. So it was a dark and stormy night. A traveling salesman seeking shelter from the horrible storm finds the house, and he decides to see if he can stay there. When he opens the door, he's greeted by the kind of odd visage of Bluebeard. This guy calls himself Bluebeard because he's got this huge freaking beard. He's this kooky looking old man, and he says, come in, don't be frightened, you're most welcome. And then he locks the door. The guy asks, and Bluebeard just says, the better to keep you in, my friend. Oh, pardon me, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Bluebeard Bates. Why Bluebeard? And he says, well, you see, stranger, Bluebeard was a famous killer. And many victims died under his ruthless hand. Now do you see why I call myself Bluebeard? And then he conks him on the head with this cudgel of some type. I thought it was interesting how they really don't even build up the suspense. It's like, you know, a lot of these stories for pages, or if it was a movie for a long time, they'd let you not be sure about the guy. But he's pretty much like, yeah, I'm a killer, just like Bluebeard. This art is so crude and primitive. It looks like he dashed it off really quick. So after he kills the guy, he drags him down to the basement. And this guy happens to have a quicksand pool in his basement. Very convenient. He throws him in. And this is why nobody's ever been able to pin a murder on him. Because a lot of people seem to disappear in the area. But the cops, when they come around to question, they can never find a body. So, of course, he takes his money, and this ghost, the ghost of the guy he just killed, comes out of the basement and says, now you will scream for mercy. And he says, you've come to haunt me, eh? And the ghost says, you're not frightened? And he's like, ghosts, I'm used to them. All my victims' ghosts are here. But they can't touch me. So as long as you're not afraid, who cares? And he just laughs. All these other ghosts are like, you know, just basically wailing. And he's just like, I don't care. They can't touch me. They're ghosts. The ghosts are saying, if only we could seize him and have revenge, but we have no power over him physically. And Bluebeard is just taunting these ghosts. So this new ghost, the traveling salesman, he says, so there's no way we can get our revenge? And it's like, nah, this guy has no conscience, you know, so we can't really torture him. That's how usually ghosts wreak their revenge, by working on someone's, you know, conscience and regret. But he's a human monster, and he sleeps soundly all night. And we can't even wake him up. So then he hears another knock at the door. This time, it's a guy with a gun. He's a criminal. And he says, I just made a getaway from the city. I'm going to lay low here. Bring me some food. And, of course, instead of serving him food, he serves him that cudgel again. I think it's like a table leg or something. I don't know what that is. And he conks this guy in the head, too. Interesting, it's pre-code, but they still kind of censor the violence. You just see a silhouette. Now, he throws him in the quicksand pit, of course. And then a few minutes later, the ghost of this criminal says, it's all my loot. And he's like, my loot now? I hit the jackpot. But then amongst this criminal's effects, he finds a jar of nitroglycerin. And he's like, oh my God, this could go off any second. So he grabs it and walks outside the house. And he says, I'll fling it away at a safe distance from the house. Suddenly there's a blinding flash of lightning. And he's like, I must hold on to the nitro. Can't drop it. That's such a weird, almost cartoony panel. And when his dazed senses returned from the flash of the lightning, the nitroglycerin's not in his hand anymore. He's like, oh, I guess it must have drained harmlessly into the ground. And then as he's walking back to the house, another flash of lightning topples a tree right next to him. The tree falls, but just narrowly misses him. And he says, I could have swore it crashed right down on me. What a miracle. You could probably already see where this is heading. But then as he returns to his house, all the ghosts come out. And they seem to be a little cocky. They're like, come in, Bluebeard, welcome indeed. And he's like, you can't harm me. He's like, but we can. That lightning and thunder you thought you heard and saw, that was the nitro exploding in your hand. But then I would be yes, Bluebeard, you are now a ghost. No, So now all the ghosts can get their revenge. Kind of a cute little twist, but I guess just the novelty of a guy living in a haunted house and not giving a shit. This one is really, I really like the way this one's drawn. This is John Romita. And Stan Lee wrote the script, and we know this because he writes his name huge. Nobody else could sign their work. Well, they would sign their work. I'm sorry, that's not true. But it would just be in the corner somewhere, but Stan Lee makes sure everyone knows. But this is a very early John Romita. This is before he went off to DC to do all those romance comics. So this is called Death and Tommy Norton. And we see this cute little kid, Tommy. His friend says, come out to play. And the caption says there was just one thing wrong. His guardians wanted to kill him. So this is his aunt. I love the way he draws this aunt, John Romita. This is amazing illustration. And I don't know who this guy is. I guess it's her husband. But it's kind of hard to tell. So I guess we have to assume it's her husband. That's why he lives with her. So she says, yes, all the money his parents left him, we won't get unless he dies. The husband is like, oh, we can't kill him in cold blood. I mean, God, you're his mother's sister. Are you sure you want to kill your own nephew? And she starts strangling him. This lady's so fucking tough. She's like, I'll kill you first, you little wimp. And he's like, no, stop, Elvira. And so he, I guess, goes along with the plan. And the thing is, the amount of money they're talking about is $50,000, which now would not be worth killing someone over at all. And once again, it's interesting as the story goes on and as her evil plans become more evident, more real. It's almost like he draws her more monstrously, where she almost looks inhuman in a lot of panels. So it's time for Tommy to go home. He gets home in time for dinner, but he says, before dinner, though, I have to say hi to I have to check in with the captain. And the aunt says, that weird little kid. He talks about the captain as if it was alive. And so we see who the captain is. It's a little toy soldier. And I guess Tommy is his best friend in the world, his imaginary friend. And so now that he's checked in, he says, I'm going to go eat dinner. You hold on to your cork gun. He's got a little cork gun in his hand. And she says, what took you so long? I had to check in with the captain. And both of the guardians start giving him shit about believing in, this toy soldier as a friend. Look at this face here. These faces are amazing. And then the husband, now that he's in on the deal, he's starting to look more monstrous. So Elvira says, we'll do it tonight. And she's so abusive to her poor husband. She's just always slapping him and choking him. So we see Tommy in bed, talking to his toy soldier again, the captain. And he's basically saying, oh, my parents don't understand. My guardians don't understand that we're friends and you can talk back to me. So he goes to bed. Downstairs, look at them here. They're just totally monstrous here. So she tells her husband, she says, we have to make it look like an accident. I'll bash in his head with a blunt instrument, then put him at the foot of the stairs. Oh my God, look at her here. And the husband kind of chickens out again. He says, we got to stop this. No, we'll be hung. We'll get caught. I don't want to die. So the Elvira's had enough of his simpering. And she says, I'll just do it myself. And I won't have to split the money with anyone. And she kills him. That's a great panel there. So she sneaks into his bedroom. And she's just about to kill him. And then we hear bang. Two policemen happen to be patrolling. And they say, I heard a shot. And they go inside the house. When they run up to the room, they call in the coroner. He comes. Tommy's kind of in shock. He's like, she tried to kill me. And it's like, oh, it's all right, Sonny. She's dead now. And the other cop says, I don't understand. Who could have shot her? And the coroner gets there. And he says, oh, yeah, give me a few minutes while I work this bullet out. And then we'll be able to trace it to a gun. But when he pulls the bullet out, it's made of cork from a toy gun. And in the background, we can see the shadow of the captain looming large. Look at, even the coroner gets in on the looking monstrous business. Even though he didn't do anything wrong. He looks pretty scary. Man, this is some good stuff. Who would have thought Johnny Romita, is known for his slick, clean art. That he could draw this kind of dingy and gnarly. Here's The Man Who Saw Tomorrow. This is, once again, unknown writer. Art by Joe Sinnott. Back when Joe Sinnott wasn't just an inker. Pretty much after the 60s, I don't think he ever penciled a damn thing. And it's kind of weird. It's kind of odd that he never did because he's pretty damn good. There's some really nice pencils. And, of course, the inks are very solid. So we see Filbert Hooton. He's a photographer. But he didn't take pictures of men or women or children. He liked to take pictures of cemeteries. And not just cemeteries, of tombstones, of coffins, even corpses. That's all he wanted to take pictures of. And one day, though, he realizes how all of his pictures are starting to look alike. He's got to figure something new to photograph to keep it fresh. And he's thinking and thinking till there's nothing he ain't thunk. And then he says, I got it. There's one thing that no one in the world has ever taken a picture of. Tomorrow. Yeah, I guess there was a long pause there, so that sounded like I just had a seizure. Nobody's ever taken a picture of tomorrow. Also, the idea is so stupid that you probably were like, tomorrow? What? And yeah, I thought the same thing. The explanation is even stupider. Okay, so let's say you wanted to figure out how to take a picture of the future of tomorrow. What would you do? Oh, I'm sorry, before I get to that, this is his rationale. He tells himself, why not? There are machines which play records made in the past. Why can't a special camera take a picture in the future? Because it's the future, you fucking idiot. Things in the past can be recorded, and then we can read them, or listen to them, or view them. But you can't with the future. It's not the same thing. He acts like it's equivocal. Okay, so then, like I was saying, what would you do? I got to figure out how to make a camera that takes pictures of the future. He starts taking apart dozens of clocks and studying the works. He studied calendars for hours at a time. He experimented with electricity and the speed of light. That makes a little more sense. But I just love the idea that, if I really study calendars and clocks, I'll be able to see into the future. It's so dumb. But still, throughout, this art is really nice. Really dig this. So he figures it out. He makes the camera. He takes the picture, and now he's going to develop it for a few minutes. And finally, he says, I'll be the first man to see how the world will look 1 week from today. And he looks at the photo and says, no. And what Filbert Hooton saw terrified him far more than any of the cemetery pictures he had ever taken. For the film was a perfect blank. So I like that. I guess the horror of this strip is supposedly that in 1 week's time, Earth will just be a giant white void somehow. But really, when you think about it, the real answer is that he's a fucking nut, moron, and it did work. So of course, when he took a picture of nothing with his weird camera, it didn't work. And so it came out white. So I think that's the real explanation, but I think they want you to think, oh my God, that's what the Earth will be like in 1 week. And so now we have The Twin. This is written by Paul S. Newman, that guy who wrote like thousands of comic pages for Dell and Gold Key over the years. I guess he worked at Atlas. And this is drawn by Myron Fass. Now, in Grand Comic Database, it says it might be inked by Jack Abel. It also isn't quite sure if this is Myron Fass. I don't know Myron Fass well enough to even harbor a guess, but I think it looks great. It looks really nice. Just some very illustrative art here. So we're back in like old-timey France. There's these twin brothers, Pierre and Armand. And Pierre was born like, I don't know, he was born a second before his brother. He was the first twin out. And due to that, just like in real life, this happens with all first twins, he always gets everything first. So Pierre asks this woman to dance, and she says, I'm sorry, your twin brother, Pierre, asked me first. And Pierre rubs it in. He says, it happens again. We have the same feelings, desires, and thoughts, but I always act just a bit sooner. And Armand says, you won't always be the one who was first. So the next morning he wakes up super early. He knows that there's this ship from the West Indies coming into port, and it's full of spices, and he's going to buy the spices and make a lot of money. He gets there, and of course the sea captain says, but monsieur, you already have bought it all. And he says, oh, I just came here. And he says, but I recognize your face. And of course, right then, Pierre drives up in his coach and says, I had the idea first. I already bought the spices. A week later, Armand saw these Polish exiles fleeing into Paris. He says, I have a spare castle that I don't even use. I could make a fortune by charging them all rent. So he goes to the exiles, and the Polish head of the Polish guy says, you have come too late. We've already signed to rent the castle. but I could swear you were the man we signed with. And, of course, just like clockwork, Pierre shows up just to rub it in. Now, Armand's had enough of this shit, and he has to be restrained from beating up Pierre. Pierre says, "Don't ever try that again or you'll regret it." And Armand says, "Don't threaten me. I've had my fill of being beaten out of a fortune by you at every turn. It's time you lost out." So we see Armand jealously watching his brother from a bistro. Always first, always the winner. The woman I want are on Pierre's arm. The fortunes I plan for, he claims first. It's got to stop now. Father gave us twin daggers when we reached manhood. Here's where Pierre gets the second dagger. So Armand planned his brother's murder very carefully. He followed him around for a week, and he realizes that there's a certain part of Paris that he walks by every night at 7 in the morning. And so the next morning he wakes up and Armand is ready. He hears footsteps. It's Pierre coming. Another second and victory is mine. And then as soon as he lifts his dagger to strike, he felt a cold stabbing pain in his chest. And on the ground he looks up, and of course it's Pierre with his blade that the father gave him. "Pierre, you had the same idea." "Yes, my foolish brother, and still first." I really like that story. It's kind of dumb, but it's also like a great little ironic twist type story. So there you go, guys. Crypt of Shadows, another great issue, number 7. And hope you guys like looking at it with me. Some really interesting art. I mean, that's why I get these Atlas reprints from the 70s. I mean, I would buy the originals if I had the money, but I collect all of these because just the art is so bizarro. Like, I guess they couldn't afford to pay the rates EC was paying, and so they had to get all these lesser artists. But in some ways, a lot of these guys are more interesting than some of the EC artists because they're so wonky and weird. So there you go. I hope you guys liked it, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.